Welcome back to Civilnet. I'm delighted and honored to be joined today by former Turkish parliamentarian and current fellow at the Carnegie Endowment for Peace, Mr. Garo Paylan. Mr. Paylan, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Welcome back to Yerevan. So you're quite active in Washington, D.C., and Armenians have been quite apprehensive about a renewed Trump presidency, particularly because of Trump's personal relationship with Erdogan, although it's apparent that he hasn't made a phone call to him since his inauguration. Tell us, what do you see about a Trump era when it comes to Turkish and Armenian relations?
It has been almost a year that I have been living in D.C., and I have been trying to convince Biden administration to put their way on this peace deal, normalization with Turkey and peace deal with Armenia and Azerbaijan. But unfortunately, Mr. Biden was reluctant to put his personal way on this peace deal. So, and he wrote a letter to both, Prime Minister Pashinyan and President Aliyev just 2 weeks before the elections, but it was too little, too late. Already Mr. Biden was a lame duck and he had no capacity to broker that peace. Now, there is another era, Trump era, and everything will be different. Because in USA, institutions were important, but now Trump's personal character will be the most significant thing in USA. We tried to make Turkey as a small USA, but USA is becoming a big Turkey now. In Turkey, it's all about Erdogan, his family, and his oligarchs. Now in USA, I guess it will be the same. Trump, his family, and his oligarchs, new American oligarchs. So to convince Trump to put his personal way on this peace deal, I guess we need to engage with Mr. Trump personally. I know there are so many significant Armenians who have personal relationship with Mr. Trump. They can convince Trump to put personal way on this. And or in the Silicon Valley, there are so many significant Armenians who works in the IT sector. They can maybe engage with the new American oligarchs to reach out to Trump to broker this peace. This is the new way to really, this is the new world, maybe disorder. In all over the world, there are so many examples of these strong men, and I guess the new era will be right, and we are not that strong, but we can reach out to strong men to convince Erdogan or Aliyev that this is the red line, you cannot cross the red line, and this is the deal you have to take. You have to sign this peace deal because we need some more time to get even stronger.
And are you optimistic in general for our ability to do that with President Trump? I mean, as you know, that he's called Erdogan his personal friend in the past. It doesn't seem, I mean, of course, it's still the early days, but it seems like his administration will be quite different this time around. And you do have, Senator Marco Rubio, who's very anti-Turkey and very pro-Armenian. So
you know what? Whoever gets into office forgets about being pro-Armenian or being anti-Turkish. Because Senator Rubio used a sentence when he was about to get into office. U.S. foreign policy will be 100% based on U.S. interests. This means, of course, we are a Christian nation. It will mean something, only something for Foreign Minister, Secretary of State Michael Rubio. But it will not be everything. It will be only maybe 1%. But what about the 99%? Turkey has a strategic significance, and Azerbaijan has the oil. Azeris are friends with Israel, as you know, and U.S. foreign policies, I guess 70% of it is based on Israel's security. So this is a big risk for us to rely on Michael Rubio's being a Republican or being a Christian. We should not rely on that. We should rely on what cards do we have, what interest can we show to Mr. Trump and Mr. Rubio, and how can we convince them to put their personal way on this. Let's say Mr. Trump came into office with a peace agenda. It is not likely for him to broker a peace in Ukraine in the coming months. I'm not expecting that. Even that ceasefire in Gaza is a fragile ceasefire. But there is a low-hanging fruit here. Even this can create a Nobel Peace Prize for Mr. Trump. So this is how we can convince him. More than that, from Europe to the Central Asia, we can really, those infrastructure projects might be very important for the West. And maybe Trump will appease Putin in the Ukrainian front, but what about mitigating the Russian leverage on the South Caucasus front? These are the interests that we can sell to Mr. Trump and Mr. Rubio.
Tell us a little bit about the ongoing situation in Turkey now. I mean, as far as we understand it, there seems to be renewed crackdown on dissidents. It does seem like İmamoğlu is in Erdogan's crosshairs, and there's talk of some kind of rapprochement with the Kurds. All of this seems to be pre-election kind of engineering. What do you think?
No, we tried to make Turkey a democracy with Turkish and Kurdish allies, friends, but unfortunately, for the last 10 years, we always felt the headwinds, and Erdogan demolished almost all the institutions, and he jailed almost his opponents, and now İmamoğlu is the maybe only person who can challenge him in the coming elections, and and judiciary is at stake under the Erdogan's hand, and he can use it against İmamoğlu as well. But Turkey, maybe this election, the upcoming election, will be the last chance for the Turkish democracy. But there are again some openings about the Kurdish conflict, and there are talks with the Kurdish movement and Abdullah Öcalan. There might be an opening, but we cannot trust that. Still Erdogan is appointing trustees instead of elected mayors, and still he is jailing all my friends in my former party. So Turkey is living a very dark winter, and I hope my friends are still struggling there, and they will just make Erdogan. They can stop Erdogan about his repressions.
And it does seem that he is planning on changing the constitution in order to be able to run or to stay longer?
Actually, does Turkey have a constitution? I cannot answer that, because he doesn't respect the constitution. Even now, all over the world, Mr. Trump, he's doing so many things, who are not aligned with the constitution. So, all over the world, the rule-based order is questioned. So this is a new world disorder, and all these strongmen are challenging the rule-based order or democracy that we knew. So this is a dark era all over the world. When Trump is vocal about, I can get Panama, even Canada or Greenland. Now, I'm sure Mr. Aliyev is eyeing this, or Erdogan is eyeing this, because he wants to extend territory. Now, he wants to make Syria an extension of Turkey, or Aliyev is eyeing about taking Syria. So this is a very dark era, and this creates huge stakes, threats for Armenia as well. So we need to be very, very clever. Let's say, Erdogan, wanted to open this border, Turkish-Armenian border. But he just sent some messages to Washington, D.C. or Brussels, but he couldn't see any credit coming from that. So as an opportunist, he's just waiting. And Mr. Aliyev is buying his silence. How? He has a gas company called SOCAR. SOCAR just announced another investment plan, which is $8 billion. Again, only 2 weeks ago, and Erdogan just called Aliyev, which he has not been calling for the last 8 months because he was not happy with his Israel-Azerbaijan policy. But he just announced another investment plan. That is how he bought his silence. So everything is going to be somewhere between that. Investment plans, interests, what am I getting, what am I losing? Everything will be transactional, but Armenian policy is, by all means, all the Armenian world, all about emotions. So we need to have strategic thinking to save our nations, to save our country. I'm sorry.
I'm glad you brought that up. It's, so I would say one of our biggest flaws is we're not able to think clearly, rationally, and even if it hurts, right? We have the recent anniversary of the death of your friend, Hrant Dink, who of course in life was vilified by the Armenian community abroad and one particular subgroup of ultranationalists within there, but now is a hero. Once of course he was murdered, but his message was of reconciliation, of not was of thinking clearly and understanding that the unfortunate reality is that Turks are not going to pack up and move back to Mongolia anytime soon. They have 30 times our population. We're not each making 30 babies, so we can't fight them. The only option that seems to be left is to talk, no matter how much it hurts, and to, emotionally as an Armenian, as a descendant of genocide survivors too. I mean, it's emotionally doesn't sit well with me, but living in Armenia gives you a big helping of reality, and we haven't talked to them for 30 years, and it's Turkish drones that obliterated our brothers and our sisters and our friends and our young men in uniform. And if we're going to stop that, there has to be a way, and it has to be through talking. Tell us, what are your thoughts on this? What are the prospects of us being able to talk again?
No, after the Armenian genocide, for 3 generations, we were sentenced to silence. My grandmother, I remember, Siranush, she was silenced and she didn't tell anything about the genocide. But then there was an opening in Turkey in the 1990s. Turkey started a EU accession process, and all the minorities benefited from it. And Hrant Dink started to talk about the past and the future, not only the past. He was not talking only about past, because he said we have to reconcile about the wrongdoings about the past to move forward. And he dreamed about a democratic future of the Turks, Kurds, and Armenians together. And that window was a great window. We benefited from that. They killed Hrant Dink in 2007, and we continued that fight. But unfortunately, Western powers, especially France after Sarkozy, he just said Turkey can never be a European Union member because Turkey has a Muslim majority. Then that vicious cycle has started, and Erdogan started to demolish the democratic institutions. Now here where we are, unfortunately. And I urged all the Armenian vote that this is a window, we need to benefit from it. But we were biased, and we had of course it was right maybe to be biased, but we needed to benefit from that window of opportunity. No, because this is our destiny. We are at least neighbors. As you know, if you have a neighbor, and your border is closed, you cannot solve your problems with your neighbor. Look, Greece and Turkey, they have a bloody history as well. And hundreds of thousands of Greeks were massacred in Turkey.
They also had genocide.
Yeah, and the border is open. Greece doesn't say, "Oh, we are just going to keep our border closed until you recognize the Greek genocide." And they are doing trade, but still they have problems. Maybe one day they will solve. But when it's going to happen? When Turkey becomes a democracy. Only a democratic Turkey can recognize the Greek genocide or the Armenian genocide. I struggled for it. And I was lynched, and even I was about to be assassinated for several times. But I lost my faith about it and just left Turkey to be more beneficial for Armenia, because Turkey is not even there. This kind of a Turkey can never recognize the Armenian genocide. Maybe 10 years later, 20 years later, we might see another opening, but we cannot wait 20 more years. We need to open this border, engage people-to-people relationship is going to heal this hatred cycle, which is always hitting us back. So with people-to-people relations, we will mitigate this hatred cycle, and we will have a chance to move forward, because Turkish nationalists are really, they are the beneficiary of this hatred cycle, and we have to somehow, some way, end this vicious cycle. And only there is one man who can broker this peace or convince Erdogan and Aliyev. It is Mr. Trump, and I guess we all have to convince Mr. Trump and Mr. Rubio to put their way on this peace deal and normalization deal for us to have a chance to move forward.
Yeah, I want to be fair, right? You mentioned that the border with Greece is open. Armenia has always shown itself willing to open and to interact with the Turks. It's actually an obscure part of our history that Armenians often forget, right? Is that the ARF leadership of the First Republic went to Mustafa Kemal right after the genocide. In fact, even probably during the genocide,
Enver
essentially.
Pasha, Talat Pasha, not only Mustafa Kemal, Enver Pasha, Talat Pasha,
to ask for weapons.
Perpetrators, because no, as you know, all the nations are ruled by their interests, and because Enver Pasha and Talat Pasha, just after the genocide, didn't want the Soviet Union to be at their borders. They wanted a buffer zone. So why not an Armenia at our buffer zone? Isn't it a better option? That is why, even they sent some special envoys to Yerevan, and Yerevan sent some special envoys to Istanbul. Then they had a conversation. We forget, we don't know our history. We have to read it. And destiny, our destiny is this. Now we are neighbors, and we have to be at least neighbors which have problems. But this doesn't mean that we are not going to engage. We are so much dependent on Russia. To mitigate this dependency, we have to open our borders, have better relations with our neighbors.
So this is kind of the main point, right? Is that Turkey is the main block of this. We're trying. We want to open the border. We want to become a strong country as well, not a supplicant country to Turkey.
Turkey is not a block, because Erdogan is an opportunist leader. Erdogan is a pragmatic leader.
But so why don't
and they have a state culture. They are not emotional at all. Erdogan doesn't like anybody, doesn't hate anybody. He only cares about his interests. Look at Mr. Trump. He doesn't like anybody. He doesn't hate anybody. Whatever works for Mr. Trump or Mr. Erdogan it's okay for them. We should be somewhere there. Of course, we have emotions. We have a history. We are biased. But we should have a strategic thinking. This is a New World disorder. Let's say territorial integrity was a sacrosanct when we had so-called Azerbaijani land. Other than Artsakh, we had some land. But Azerbaijan was criticizing us for that. Now, territorial integrity is no longer a sacrosanct. So now Azerbaijan has demands about our territory. This is an existential threat. We have to face it. And we have to have one hand squeezed, but we are not that strong to hit back. We need at least 3 to 5 years to hit back. But we have to have the other hand extended. That should be our policy. And we have to have the strong powers, France and United States, to put their way on this peace, to broker this peace. I guess this is a low-hanging fruit. If Mr. Trump really puts his personal way, this is a low-hanging fruit, and then we will buy that time to make our economy strong, to make our army strong, and in 3 to 5 years, I guess that is why Aliyev doesn't want to sign this deal. I don't understand this. Aliyev is against this peace, and some Armenians are against this peace, which is right, I guess, because Aliyev knows Armenia will be the biggest beneficiary of this peace. That is why he is dragging his feet. So I guess we should be in favor of this peace, to buy some time to make our country strong.
It's an unfortunate reality that right now we're vulnerable and we have to be logical so that we can get out of this mess. Recently, you had the mayor of Kars, who was openly stating that they, in that region of Turkey, they welcome an open border with Armenia because they want the trade, they want the economic prosperity that comes with it. There was a recent study about 3 months ago or so, assessing the economic impact of trade, cross-border trade with Turkey on domestic Armenian markets. And the reality is actually our markets are fairly resilient. We won't be priced out of any really vital industries, and so it can only be beneficial. in the long run. And more importantly, just for the sake of survival, we do need to talk. But again, what I'm not understanding is, every few months we have this new announcement that, the Turks, there's some positive movements and this and that, but the border stays shut. Is it Aliyev who's preventing it? Why isn't Erdogan just telling Aliyev to mind his own business and open the border? What's going on?
Erdogan sees this opening as a bargaining chip. Now, after the 2020 war, I told them, you are one of the losers of this war. Then I convinced them to start a normalization process. Then with peace, you can have leverage on the South Caucasus, and both sides can benefit from that. But Erdogan sent messages to the West, but he never saw a credit. That is why he's keeping this bargaining chip. And Turkey, unfortunately, Turkey's South Caucasus policy is unfortunately hostage to Aliyev, and Aliyev always buys Erdogan's silence, unfortunately, with money. As I said, he just announced another $8 billion investment plan to Ankara, and it is just to buy Erdogan's silence. But Erdogan makes this calculation. If I open this border, Aliyev will be unhappy and he's going to cancel this whatever investment plan, or Putin will be unhappy. But if he gets something more than this, which can be, let me say, he wants customs union modernization with Europe, visa liberalization with Europe. If that conversation starts, or Trump's tariff policy, Trump can say, I will put 20% tariffs to others, but 10% to you if you sign this peace deal. That is what he wants if you open the border with Armenia. That is this easy, unfortunately. And one man can decide what Erdogan is going to do about this border opening. And it is going to be a lifeline for us. So I guess we should be in favor of it. And in USA, I know so many people who can reach out to Mar-a-Lago. And they need to take responsibility about it to convince Trump. We shouldn't be emotional. We should have a strategic thinking, and we should do whatever we can do to save Armenia. And I'm trying to do that in the United States, DC.
Garo, Paylan, it was really an enlightening conversation. Thank you for joining us today on Civilnet.
Thank you.
Thanks again for watching.